But these are things also that I recovered from largely through therapy, and going on a weekly basis and talking to a professional about like, okay, when I'm scared of opening my computer because I don't know how to answer the 20 emails that came in overnight, which seems like a silly thing. What do I do? How do I
It's
deal
not
with
a silly
this?
thing though at all.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lee Ngo, and this is Educative Sessions, a podcast series where we talk with people in the developer world about their coding experiences. And this is powered by Educative, which makes it easy for authors to provide interactive and adaptive courses for software developers. Today's guest is Mary Thengvall, who is the Director of Developer Relationships with Camunda. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Wonderful. And we're going to talk a lot about wellness within the community building world, which
Yeah.
is very much what I associate Mary with and all the conversations and talks I've seen her at. So, Mary, thank you so much for being a part of our show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I think
Yeah,
this is a really important topic to be talking about, especially right now. So I'm
ab-
excited to dig in.
absolutely wonderful. So let's get right into it. I often associate you with evangelism par excellence, right?
Hmm.
Like whether it's in this particular topic or in general. And you've been in this space for some time. So, how long have you been in it? And I think to give us a sort of direction, like when did you start feeling that burnout, that edge within the
Mm,
space?
sure. So I've been doing community developer relations type work in some way for, uh, gosh, 14, 15 years? No, 13. I started in 2007 as a full-time career. So however, what the math is there.
As these things go on, let's just let the math kind of trickle from there. So yeah,
There you go.
fair enough.
But yeah, I've engaged with a variety of developer communities over the years and just really loved the enabling developers, helping people better understand the products that we're putting out there, working with different technical communities and making sure that we're providing for them both in resources as well as product, passing their feedback along to the right people, all of those types of things.
Mhm.
Um, I don't think I really started feeling burnout for the first time until I was probably 4 or 5 years in.
Mhm.
And honestly, the first signs of burnout for me were that I wasn't enjoying the work that I've always enjoyed doing. I wasn't getting that same kind of enjoyment out of it, wasn't getting the same type of real just uh, motivation or the nice feeling you get when you're working with people and you know that you're doing
Right.
good work.
Right.
And I struggle with that a lot because I tend to be someone who really likes helping people.
Mhm.
And so I kind of deep dive into problem solving fairly often and deep dive into what can I do to make this better? How can I fix it?
Mhm.
But I find myself throughout my life, personal and professional relationships at times, almost going too far into that. What can I do to help? How can I fix this? I'm the person responsible. And so when things don't go as they should,
Mhm.
then it turns into, or can at least turn into this sense of burnout for me, where my work is no longer appreciated or not appreciated in the same ways, which makes it feel like I'm not having as much of an impact.
Right.
People don't understand the work that I'm doing. It's not as clear what my value is.
Mhm.
And that can just kind of snowball into this sense of um, I'm not sure how to keep going in the direction that I'm used to going. I'm not sure how to continue to make that impact,
Mhm.
which then of course makes it that much more difficult to make an impact.
For sure. I think you were one of the earliest people I spoke to about this issue, and especially when it comes to the unique expectations of people who are in DevRel, evangelism, community building, etc. When
Hmm.
it comes to like the different sides of energy, right?
Yeah.
Was that something you were able to like anticipate or manage early on? When you're part time working one side of your brain and another time working other sides of your brain. Uh, Take us through that a little bit more.
Yeah. So for me, it wasn't something that I was able to recognize in myself, basically in any way whatsoever. And I think anytime, I felt tired or felt overwhelmed, it was, well, that's the way things are right now,
Right,
right?
right.
I'm busy, I've got a lot of things going on, I've got a lot that I'm responsible for. And so there was never really a way for me to clearly acknowledge and point out, this is what I'm feeling, this is where I am, this is what I'm going through.
Hmm.
I think part of that, honestly, was I didn't know what burnout was. And so it wasn't until I finally went to someone internally at the company that I was at, not my manager, and said, I can't. Like,
Hmm.
I don't know what's going on. I don't know why I'm so overwhelmed, but
Hmm.
like, I literally can't open my computer in the morning to go through email because I feel too overwhelmed by what I have to do.
Right.
And it wasn't that there was an enormous number of things on my plate, though there was a lot, but it was that just almost palpable sensation of I can't keep doing the things that I'm trying to do and I don't have a way
Yeah.
out, and that helplessness that comes along with it.
Hmm.
And so it wasn't until I had had several months off and said, I'm done. I can't keep doing that. I need a break, and started finding myself healing a little bit, that I was able to then go back and reflect on it and say, oh, the fact that I wasn't able to respond to a community member reaching out and asking for my help, that's a huge red flag.
Hmm.
The fact that I wasn't enjoying writing content is a huge red flag. The fact that I couldn't focus on a single project for any period of time was a big red flag.
Hmm.
And so I was able to identify those things in me that showed that I was at least leaning toward burnout. And then these days, I'm able to go, oh, hang on. I've been trying to write that blog post for the last 3 weeks
Hmm.
and I'm struggling with it.
Hmm.
I should take a day or two off of work.
Hmm. Hmm.
Right. And so I can kind of recognize these days what that looks like for me, and be able to take a step back there. But it took a lot of going through it and experiencing it, for me to be able to see it. And that's part of the reason why I became passionate about talking about it, especially with community managers,
Yeah.
because I feel like so often we're switching context so much, we're dealing with a lot of different things, there's always a lot on our plates that we could take on.
Hmm.
And so we have a tendency to not really realize just how much is going on until we're in that, oh, hang on, I'm burned out, or I'm not productive, or I can't do these things
Hmm.
state of mind already.
Right. First, of course, thank you for sharing all of that. That's really
Yeah.
very vulnerable and also very insightful into a lot of the things. And I think it's quite courageous that you were willing to go to your to HR or whoever in your company that wasn't your manager to talk about these things.
Mhm.
Because many people don't have that courage and don't take the time to do so. I'm very curious about how or whether you have been open about these issues, not just with other community managers like myself, which is how I first heard about these things, but
Mhm.
with your actual community, with people who are within the space who are you are engaging with. Um, because there's a lot, in my view, of this kind of work where, yes, there's a professional side, but if there isn't a personal touch, it's not as
Mhm.
compelling.
Yeah.
And I would love to know a little bit more about your experiences, if there are any, with sharing this
Mhm.
part of your professional experience.
Yeah. That's a great question. I don't know if I've intentionally shared about it with the communities that I've been working with when I'm in the midst of feeling like I might be burning out.
Yeah.
I have given talks throughout the tech industry about burnout as it relates to community management, developer relations, as well as just tech in general.
Hmm.
Um, I think part of what can lead to burnout for people is the pace that we're going at with our companies, with our work, and just the seeming inability to slow down or take a breath or push back on work that's given to us.
Hmm.
And so I've definitely talked about burnout as a topic, and is something that we need to be keeping an eye on with the greater technical community, as well as managers of the greater technical community, because I think it's really important for managers to be able to spot some of those things in their employees,
Yes.
so that, not everyone is winding up in the situation that I'm in, where I'm going, I don't know what this is, but I can't.
Right. 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 Right.
And I need help. And so giving people the tools to recognize that, I think, is important.
Absolutely. And it's a difficult thing, right? And I think it's an unfair thing for employees to be expected to be so open about these really
Mhm.
personal. In fact, I think we're almost legally discouraged not to share, right?
Yeah.
Because lends itself to a lot of complicated conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's this push and pull between, say in a capitalist formation of things, like you're supposed to be perfect employee, never suffering, always productive,
Right.
versus this constant discussion around work-life balance.
Mm.
And for me and for other people who have experienced this kind of burnout and struggle, and in some ways serious medical stuff too,
Mm-hmm.
it's not just a throwaway phrase. It's a
Yeah.
serious concern.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Oh, do you have something to say on that note? Yeah.
I was just gonna say the year after I gave my first talk about burnout, the World Health Organization came out saying burnout's an actual diagnosable condition,
Wow. I didn't realize that. Okay.
because it's so closely linked to depression.
Yes.
And so it's not just, hey, this could cause depression, but it is a form of depression, and it
Mm-hmm.
exhibits as depression for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think having it be recognized as a diagnosable condition makes it a little bit easier.
Mm-hmm.
But to your point, it's a difficult topic to talk about. It's a difficult topic to bring up because there's concerns about, well, maybe I'm going to get written up on a performance improvement plan if I say I'm struggling with performance, or
Mm.
if I can't explain why I feel like there's too much on my plate, my manager's just going to think that I'm not capable of doing that.
Right.
And so
Right.
I think having some of those conversations and giving people the words to say, it's not just that I feel like there's too much on my plate. I don't know how to do these things.
Mm-hmm.
I need to take some time off. I need to recover. I can't focus, right? And giving
Mm-hmm.
people the medical words to say, here's the issues that I'm dealing with and the things that I keep running into is important. And I'll make a note there. I am not a medical professional. I don't have any sort of medical training, any sort of psychiatric training.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but these are things also that I recovered from largely through therapy, and going on a weekly basis and talking to a professional about, like, okay, when I'm scared of opening my computer because I don't know how to answer the 20 emails that came in overnight, which seems like a silly thing, what do I do? How do I
It's
deal
not
with
a silly
this?
thing though at all.
Right,
Right.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And really getting that professional help and the professional counseling that I needed to be able to figure out what are the best steps forward, and how do I process this and grow and learn and get healthier.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's wonderful. And I think I'd like to actually extend on our last question on that topic of what are your recommendations for people, and most certainly there are so many people out there who are suffering just like you have suffered, and
Mm-hmm.
I'd say this is a potentially perpetual struggle of
Yeah,
finding balance within ourselves. What are the
yeah,
things that have been helpful for you or for other community managers that you would recommend too?
yeah. So I think part of it is building up a good relationship, a trusting relationship with your manager.
Mhm.
There's not much that can replace the ability to go to your manager and say, there's too much on my plate. I need you to help me take some things off. And for them to go, yeah, let's do that. Right.
Mhm.
And knowing that you can have that open and honest conversation. So that's my first thing. If you are a manager, asking your employees before they offer that, right? How is your workload? How do you feel about the work that's on your plate? How are you feeling about the number of days you're working in a day? All of those types of things. The second thing is when things start to seem overwhelming, talk to people. And that might be at first reaching out to a couple trusted people in the community. That might be reaching out to someone at your company. It might be talking to a therapist and saying, I'm feeling overwhelmed. Do you have tools and resources for me? I think especially right now, we're in a really difficult time. And there's a blog post that I read last week or the week before, that I can send a link over for,
Mm.
that talked about the difference between fatigue and depletion.
Mm.
And this idea of, fatigue, we need rest to recuperate from. Depletion, we need restoration. And so
Wow.
many
Okay.
of the typical things that we use to restore ourselves these days, spending time with friends, travel, whatever those things are that really give you energy and restore that energy,
Mhm.
we aren't able to take part in. And so we're not just tired, we're depleted.
Mm.
And so recognizing that is a huge first step, and being able to say, here's where I'm at. let's figure out what the next steps are to get me to a point where I'm feeling more restored, and what those activities might be that are restorative to me to make sure that I can keep going. And so on a regular basis, finding some of those restorative activities and saying, cool, for me, once a week, I go down to the beach, or I go into the park, or I pick up a good book and I read for a little bit. But whatever it is that really restores that energy for you and gives you energy rather than it's you expending energy on something else.
Got it. I think that's wonderful and very helpful. And I love that difference. And I think the words that we're using are often, how can I put it? Like they are watered down. I guess I was hoping
Mm-hmm.
for a bigger word, but we'll go with watered down, where everything's treated as a euphemism when it comes to these things. Like we don't think
Mm-hmm.
of burnout as like, ah, that's just you're exhausted and you'll recover.
Right.
The word that you use, depletion, I think is a very real feeling that a lot of people feel. Or when
Mm-hmm.
people talk about being anxious versus real anxiety that cripples your
Yes.
ability to do work,
Yeah.
those are serious conditions and they
Mm-hmm.
require serious intervention.
Yeah.
Mary, I kind of wish we could talk for another 30 minutes or so, but we are both busy. And so I want to respect your time, especially, and give you an opportunity to do a shameless plug. If there's
Mm.
something like within your company or your work or your community work or what have you, here's the chance to kind of talk about it. The floor is yours.
Sure. Um, I think the biggest thing right now that I'm maybe not the thing that I'm most excited about, but something that I feel would be helpful for people. I do a weekly newsletter called Deborah Weekly. And it's things about how to run a better community, things about how to take care of yourself while you're running a community. I actually mentioned this article that I mentioned
Yeah.
in it this past week. And I feel right now, especially as so many companies are looking toward building healthier communities, so many people are wanting to be a part of better communities. It's been a really helpful resource for a lot of people. So I'll send people that way. You can find the latest issue and how to subscribe at deborahweekly.com.
Awesome. DeborahWeekly.com. Mary Thengvall, thank you so much for being on Educative Sessions. I think this has been a therapeutic one in a lot of ways and certainly a helpful one. And honestly, I wish we could talk more just because there's so much more wisdom that you have to share in this regard. And I want to thank everybody for watching or listening to this episode as well. You can check out more of our content on our YouTube channel or our Podbean channel or on pretty much every major podcasting platform as well. And lastly, if you want to check out what Educative does, you can look at educative.io. So for all of us here at Educative, thank you so much and happy learning. Bye-bye now. Hope you enjoyed that. This episode is available on YouTube and also on many podcast platforms. If you'd like to be part of Educative Sessions, the form is open now to apply. You can also email me at lee@educative.io. Lastly, don't forget to like and comment this video and be sure to subscribe to our channel for more content. Thank you so much for watching and happy learning.